Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. Happy New Year, everyone. Just want to call the meeting to order, and if we can just go through and introduce ourselves.
John Cunningham, Contra Costa County.
Eric Hughes, City of Pleasant Hill.
Jen Smalley, City of Richmond.
Laramie Bowen with the County Connection.
Andy Dillard, Town of Danville.
Paul Reinders, City of Pittsburgh.
Yvette Ortiz, City of El Cerrito and WICTAC.
Tom Horace, Straight Out the Transit.
Michael Tanner, BART. Jerry Fay, Contra Costa County.
Heather Ballinger, Walnut Creek, and City County Engineers.
Steve Kersavan, City of Brentwood.
Tony Coe, Lafayette.
Brad Beck, Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Stephanie Hugh, CCTA.
Susan Miller, CCTA.
Lynn Filson, City of Antioch.
Zachary Chop, Caltrans, District for Planning.
Diane Bowden, CCTA.
All right. Thank you. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment. I don't see any members of the public. So moving on to item C, approval of summary actions. Do I have any questions or comments on that item? Any motions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to the consent calendar. Do I have any questions or comments on the consent calendar? Any motions on the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Moving on to item 4 on the regular agenda, project monitoring, upcoming obligations, deadlines. Do we have a staff report? Hi, Stephanie.
Hello. Okay. Good afternoon. So on page 4-1 through 4-9, you'll find updated status reports on projects with STIP and OBAC funds, as well as a list of FHWA inactive projects. We provide these monitoring reports monthly to make sure projects are meeting their funding deadlines. Projects programmed for the current fiscal year of 14-15 need to submit their E76 by February 1st, which is just a couple weeks away. Of the 14 projects we have on the list totaling $8.8 million, only 2 have submitted so far. So please check out that list and make sure projects are submitting their E76 on time. As you know, we have monthly emails to get updates on dates for your projects. So if you can continue to provide us with dates as your project progresses, that will be helpful for us to monitor them accurately. That's it, if you have any questions.
Any questions? A motion? Oh, no, it's not. It's an informational item.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to item 5, Contra Costa's priorities for development of project study reports.
Yep. So it's me again. So I have a bunch of 11 by 70 reports on the end. If you can pass them out or just distribute them around the table there. So this replaces or supersedes the one in your packets because we made changes since the packets were produced. Okay, so Caltrans has requested the authority to provide Contra Costa's priority for project study report, PSR development. Just a brief background on PSRs. Projects may not be included in the STIP unless they have a PSR, and for projects that are not on the state highway, a PSR equivalent is required. Without a completed PSR, projects cannot compete for STIP funding. This requirement is to ensure that project scope, cost, and schedule are adequately defined through the PSR development process. Projects in the PSR list have to be part of MTC's latest RTP. In the funding or in the table that you just all received, the first 6 projects are currently on the PSR list for fiscal years 2015 to 2017. I'll briefly go over the status of each of them. The first one, modification of ramps at Bailey Road interchange on SR4. The county has indicated to us that the PSR is no longer needed, so we will be removing that from the list. Number 2, new State Route 239 between Brentwood and Tracy is currently underway and will be completed in April. Number 3, San Francisco Bay Trail from Castle Street to Richmond San Rafael Bridge is suspended since MTC is doing a larger study on the bridge. Number 4, SR4 operational improvements from 242 to San Marco interchange is currently underway. Number 5, convert southbound and northbound existing HOV lanes to express lanes on I-680 between 242 and Marina Vista on the northbound side and Marina Vista to Redgear Road on the southbound side. This PSR is now complete. Number 6, construction of HOT lanes on northbound 680 from North Main Road to 242 may not be needed since a PSR was completed back in 2007 for the HOV construction project. Staff has reviewed the current RTP and found 4 projects do not currently have a PSR. Staff seeks approval to add these 4 projects to PSR list. They're listed as number 7 to number 10 on the table. Number 7, conversion of HOV lane to HOT lane on I-80 between Carquinez Bridge and the Bay Bridge. Number 8 is reconfiguration of ramps at I-80 SR4 interchange. Number 9, construction of HOV lane on eastbound I-80 from Cummings Skyway to the Carquinez Bridge. And number 10, reconfiguration of ramps at Willow Pass Road on SR4. In addition, staff seeks approval to add 2 transit studies that were recently approved by the Authority Board, and we would like to add that to the list. And they are number 11, West County High Capacity Transit Study, and number 12, 680 Transit Study. Staff seeks approval to add these 6 projects, number 7 to number 12, to the 3-year PSR list for fiscal years 2016 to 2018. Lastly, staff would like to ask the committee members to consider adding integrated corridor mobility ICM projects for SR4 and I-680 to the list. MTC will likely be the implementing agency for I-680 ICM, and our board has indicated support for the SR4 ICM. We would like to partner with MTC by adding these ICM projects to the list. And then one thing to note is that, as you saw with a couple of status for the first 2 projects or few projects, projects can be eliminated or suspended at a later time. So being on the list does not guarantee a project will move forward. The list is just for Caltrans planning purposes, so they can provide resources for project oversight. Project sponsor will need to enter into agreement with Caltrans to pay for the oversight. Staff is to submit the PSR list to Caltrans by February 12th. Committee members are welcome to take this item or discuss with your RTPCs or TACs to see if there are other projects you guys would also like to include on the list. And if there are any questions, we'll take them.
Yeah, question on the project number 1. Is that the project that involves constructing a Class 1 trail along Bailey Road? I know that involved, we were going to realign the ramps in order to accommodate that trail.
Yeah, it's to what, yes. I mean,
So why is that, if that is the project number 1, why are we no longer needed?
It's going straight to a pier. It's just not going to be on this. It's still going forward. It's just not going to be PSR.
Yeah, they emailed us and said they found an alternative that doesn't need a PSR. That's what they told us.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just in the freeway zone. That project's been kind of split up in 3 segments, so it's more just the whole interchange zone right now to get rid of that tunnel that goes under the off ramp.
Okay, and to connect the Delta De Anza Trail.
I'm not sure we connect to it for that one, because
Okay.
I think that part of it is the next segment.
Well, yeah,
to the north.
That's to the north.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't affect the freeway.
Right.
Okay.
That
Can you
might
send
be the
me an
next
email
segment.
or update me on that?
Sure.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I had a question about the process. Again, you said the regional transportation planning committees like WICTAC will have a chance to comment on this as well?
Meaning if there are other projects that your RTPCs or your TACs would like to add to the list, we can do so.
Okay. And how about just an opportunity to comment on the ones that you're
Suggesting.
The reason I ask is I know that like the WICTAC board has previously submitted comments on the hot lanes on I-80 in that area. So I think we would have to go back and ask them for their thoughts
sure.
on.
I think that list came from reviewing the latest RTP that is published by MTC. So we were just going through it to see which ones would need a PSR.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to confirm with the RTPCs, I think that would be helpful or fine.
Okay, thanks. I had another question, just regarding the two transit studies. All those are at a planning level. What's happening is those project sponsors are anticipating some capital improvements, or why are the transit planning studies being included on the PSR list?
Answer that.
Hi, Susan Miller, CCTA staff. If we would like Caltrans participation in a study, it needs to go on this list because they use this list to plan their resources. So previously, like 239, we put the studies on the list so they know what's coming up and they can plan their resources. On your other question, really the focus of this is whether or not we need to put the project on the list so we can plan for Caltrans resources for that type of document. It doesn't mean that you won't have ample time to be able to review and participate in these projects.
So I guess if you want, before you have a PSR move forward, you'd go back and talk to those regions about priorities and whether or not that's a priority for that region at that time.
Well, if you need a project study report or a PID kind of level document, you have to be on this list. Otherwise, you can't move forward in the process.
Okay.
And so this is really just the first step. Some of these projects are ongoing, but this is really just the first step to allow you to proceed with that either that study where you would like Caltrans participation, or if it's required that you have a project study report at that level, a PID kind of document.
Okay.
And this is just the first step towards that process.
Okay, thank you. Are you asking for an action on this item?
Adding those projects to the list, number 7 to 12, as well as the ICM ones. We ask that you consider adding them to the list as well.
Okay, do I have any motions? All those in favor? And opposed? I think I'm going to abstain on that one just because of that question mark I have regarding, thank you. Moving on to item 6, changes to Metropolitan Transportation Commission's One Bay Area Grant Program.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brad Beck with the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. I'm here to update you on changes that have occurred at MTC on the One Bay Area Grant Program, or the OBAG program. On December 17th, the authority, as a commission, revised Resolution 4035. And 4035 is the resolution that outlines how they plan to allocate certain federal funds that come through their agency. One of the programs that they created in Resolution 4035 is the One Bay Area Grant Program. And the authority got a fair amount of money through that program, about $45 million, and we allocated to projects. And in that resolution, they set up a number of requirements that jurisdictions had to meet before they got their funding. One of the requirements was that they have a HCD certified housing element, and every jurisdiction got that by the deadline. And they also had to meet some complete streets requirements. And for the first round of OBAG, what you might call OBAG 1, I guess, since they're calling the next round OBAG 2, OBAG, in the first OBAG, you had to either have a general plan that complied with the Complete Streets Act of 2008 or to adopt a resolution that outlined a process by which you would review actions that you take affecting your transportation system to ensure that you consider the needs of all users of streets within your jurisdiction. 9 out of the 20 jurisdictions said that their general plan complied with the Complete Streets Act, and 11 took the adopt a resolution route. In OBAG 2, there's a new requirement, and the original requirement was that by January of this year, that is in a couple of weeks, you were to have a HCD approved housing element for the next round, this current round of RENA numbers, and you were to have a general plan that complied with the Complete Streets Act. And MTC thought that it would be easy to do those two things by January 31st of this year. They got quite a bit of feedback about that for the Complete Streets Act, that wasn't going to be quite so easy. So they have made a number of changes. One of the changes is that they're not getting enough federal money to meet their OBAG obligations, so they're going to extend OBAG for one more year. And certain funding is going to be pushed out, and it was going to end in 15-16, but now it'll end at 16-17. The authority will get some extra money, $818,000 for our CMA activities in that extra fiscal year, and we'll also be getting some Safe Routes to School funding, that new additional Safe Routes to School funding that we're going to have to allocate to Safe Routes to School projects in the county, and that's about $400,000. They also changed those deadlines. So the two changes, and that will affect what you and your jurisdictions will have to do, is that the deadline for housing element compliance or certification from HCD is moved out 120 days. So instead of it being January 31st of this year, it's now May 31st of this year. And the second change is that the deadline for complying with the Complete Streets Act is moved from January 31st, 2015 to January 31st, 2016. So you basically have another extra year to meet that requirement. And there is in Attachment B a list of the jurisdiction of Contra Costa and their status. There were 3 jurisdictions, Antioch, Clayton, and Hercules, that didn't have any plans to update their plan. Also, Pittsburgh, that the general plan, there's no budget to do the general plan by end of this month. This does give those 4 agencies extra time so that they possibly could meet that January 31st deadline and be eligible for the next round of OBAG. The OBAG 2 process is going to start probably this fall, where MTC will start sending out more details on how they want to structure the program. I expect it to be pretty much the same kind of program with the same purposes, same requirements, same factors or similar factors on selecting projects. The actual call for projects will probably be sometime in early 2016. But so end of this year, you'll be hearing more about the shape of OBAG 2. They didn't go with my suggestion for NOBAG, next OBAG, but that's okay. So that's my update. There's a little bit of additional detail in Attachment A, which is the email from Craig Goldblatt. But if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Brad, when we do our biannual checklist, we hand in theory, certification that the housing element is okay. and you bless it. Is that good enough?
No. I mean, in
Thank you.
essence, no. You have to have a letter from HCD saying that they certify that you've met state housing law. We don't require that HCD bless your housing element.
So the extra money that you were talking about for CMA operation and Safe Route to School, that's just more money in OBAG 1?
That's just more money in OBAG 1. Basically, they thought they were going to get X amount of money. They're going to get X minus whatever, because let's hear it for federal congressional inaction. So they're going to carry all the projects they expected to fund and carry them forward because they figure by adding that extra yield, they'll have enough money to cover everything that they've already programmed. But they'll have a little extra left over, and they're going to give that for the regional Safe Routes to School, the CMA activities, and to some other regional programs as well. I think Clipper and some other, I can't remember all the things. It's in the revised resolution.
And will we be seeing that money this year? I mean, will
The money will be programmed in 16-17.
Oh.
We'll have to figure out how to allocate it this year, but yeah. Money won't be available until July 1st of next year.
So just following up on that, there'll be a call for projects for that additional, is that?
Well, we haven't, I have to
Don't know.
I have to have some more conversations with MTC staff about what exactly,
Okay.
when it's available and all those things. That there's no detail on that yet.
I just had a question about the CMA planning activities. Is that just like the regular yeah, it's you. Gosh.
It's me and other studies that we do that we fund through the CMA planning funds.
Okay.
Some of, there are various things that we do.
Any other questions? Okay.
So this is information only, so you can now go back and update your general plans
Okay.
if you haven't
Thank you.
already done so.
I guess that we are adjourning our meeting and the next regular meeting is scheduled February 19th, 2:30 here. Thanks, everybody.